I'm gonna be honest with you. It's way too late to be making this video. It's probably not even worth it, but I just feel like I have to make it. And this video is about the software update 2025.2.8 or supervised version 12.6.4. And it's a full self-driving video. And the reason that I'm making this video is because this one actually felt different. I used to make them on every single update that came out. However, that used to sort of make sense back then because there was actually things that changed a lot, but we get so many small updates now that it doesn't really make sense to do that. But this update did change some things, and I thought it was gonna be a total hater video. Here's all the things I hate about this update, but it actually kind of ruined my headline and my thumbnail because it actually did some things okay. Let's get into it. All right, now as I said, there's a lot of things in here that I did not like, and the first one was coming to this stop sign that I always tested on because it just goes so disturbingly, nightmarishly slow. And same thing here, except this time it did the worst it's done in so many updates. It actually goes up, gets into the intersection eventually, and gets stuck in the middle of the intersection for a while, and it doesn't actually move. It's like 3/4 of the intersection and it hasn't decided what it wants to do yet. It's still, and there's no cars around. It's like, what are you doing, man? Just go. And remember, if you're new to watching my videos, the really only metric I care about is, does it feel natural to you to do it? Not so much, is it uber safe? Honestly, I probably should care more about that than I do. But what I care about most about is, will I enjoy actually using this, and will other people get pissed off if they're behind me? Those are kind of the two things. Am I feeling awkward, or am I feeling like I'm just driving normal? That's kind of my metric for it. But anyway, zooming on ahead, one thing it did really good right here coming out of this neighborhood, which I thought was nice, was it goes in and starts to go right here when it sees a gap, but then it sees this other car coming from far away, which is kind of in one of its blind spots. In the old updates, it used to just go and I used to have to slam on my brakes, but it's doing a good job in these updates detecting that that truck was coming, and it went. But I'll be honest with you, if I was driving the car, I 100% would have gone. I would have just, stomped on the accelerator and I would have gone, but I wasn't too disturbed about that one. But when I did come up to this light here, once again, it became a little strange. It just did something different than it had been doing in previous updates. It started stopping really far behind, and I don't know if it's because it's, got something against dually trucks. You hear that ding? You know what that ding was? Does your wife do that? That was my wife sending me a reel, and she lays up in bed and she watches reels and then she sends them to me. And if I don't check them, then guess what? I get in trouble. So give me a second.
Oh, hello. Did you think that I was the used tampon that you put in your bathroom trash can without wrapping it in toilet paper?
Okay, maybe I better watch that one off camera. Anyway, back to this whole stopping really far behind thing. Look what happens here on the next car. The truck's out of the way, so I can't blame it on the dually anymore. And right here, it stops like two and a half car lengths behind this car again. And the reason why I point this out is because it's new, it's different. It didn't used to do that. Are you guys seeing that in this update? So what I ended up having to do here was actually just press on the accelerator and pushed it forward because guess what? I don't know if you guys know this right now, but Tesla already has enough hate around it, and I didn't really want to cause any more. So then we shoot through town here, and here we get to construction area, and here's where I get to brag a little bit about how good the Tesla is doing, because look at this. We're going here through this construction area, and the car just said, screw you to all the lines. And this is where you're seeing vision in place of algorithm and formulas and mathematical equations or whatever the heck was in there, that 300,000 lines of code. This is where you're seeing it work here. Crossing lines like they don't even matter. It's doing what you would normally do if you were driving by looking at the situation and handling it. Cross double yellows, cross the white, going onto a new road. And this is actually the first time we've ever driven on this road. So Tesla has never one time, this is the first time it's been on this, never been on it before. And it handled it perfectly, swerving around, keeping a good safe distance. And if you remember the old updates, oh, you guys who've been around a while, you remember that. When we used to go through cones like this, I used to try to dodge in on all of them. Swerve in, swerve out, swerve in, swerve out. And it was just like, it was nuts. You definitely could not do that, especially on full self-drive modes, on regular autopilot. It just was crazy. But you can see here, it absolutely handles it, knows it's in a construction zone, And man, it's just like nothing. Handles it, keeps it nice and slow, doesn't even accelerate to the max speed while in the construction zone, keeping it totally safe. And then at the end here, when we finally get out of this space, then it goes and accelerates. So I was actually really bummed that I couldn't see any cool tractors in the animations on the screen. I thought, you know what, that would be cool to see a big old excavator just right there on the screen. But something tells me that's probably a low priority. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Getting through the construction area here, no complaints there. That gave me an opportunity to say something good about it because there's more bad coming. So we fly into town at Mach speed here and get towards taking the turn that's going to put us onto the Highway 18 exit. So we're getting a little bit of in-city driving, getting a little bit of highway driving in. Once again, it stops, this time not as bad, by about 2 car lengths behind the car in front of me. That's not so awkward that I felt like I had to press on the accelerator, but it's just a little bit more than I normally would. So again, that's a kind of, at this level, it's kind of a preference thing, so I'm not going to beat it on it too bad. But one thing that, Tesla does really well with this full self-drive is that when it does go and it's got a bunch of cars like really sharp on the left and you have to turn around them, it does a really good job of keeping it nice and wide around those cars so they don't feel like you're going to clip the corner of their car and you don't feel like you're going to clip it. That's one of those things that like raises the rating for me. Remember the rate these drive challenges? Some of you guys have been around a while. We used to do the rating on the side. Stuff like that used to make me want to raise the rating because it made me feel like it's taking extra measures to keep me safe and driving really well on the lines. Anyway, that was pretty good. And then when we get going right here, this car to the right of me actually wants to get into the lane and take the exit onto the Highway 18 on-ramp. And the car just starts coming over and Tesla just sort of backs off. He could be accelerating. The car could be accelerating right now because the max speed is higher, but it lets the car get in, and then they both just merge so smooth over. I thought that was something that was really good. That's something that I have often complained about, that when another car comes in, it too aggressively lets them in and backs off, or it'll like accelerate up and then pull back, and I felt like it did a good job letting that car in right there, which, I'm looking for stuff to say good things about right here, okay? Because overall, on this overall drive, I just felt like it just took a few steps back, which again, it's always done that. That's nothing new. We've often gone 1 step forward, 2 back, 2 forward, 1 back, as full self-drive has progressively gone up over time. But once again, getting on this on-ramp, I was super happy to see that it did turn on its blinker again, which forever that was one of my complaints, because you should always turn your blinker on when you're merging onto a highway, even though it's quite obvious what you're doing. And so it's nice to see it finally doing that again. And once again, while we're flying down at Mach speed down the highway, and no, this is not fast forwarded, this is the actual speed we were all driving, there's one thing that stood out to me that was totally different. And that was, I was not getting your full self-drive might be degraded because of weather alert. The rain started coming down hard. And like always when it's raining this hard, I would get that alert, and I was just waiting for full self-drive to turn off. And not that it would often, but I would always at least get the alert. But the storm continued on, and even all the way back home, where I wasn't recording, the storm was going, and I never once got the alert, never lost full self-drive, which for those of us who live in the Pacific Northwest or in any other climate around like Canada or wherever, where you get lots of rain, this is huge because we were pretty settled that this was gonna only be something for cloudy or sunny days, not something that we're going to be able to use in the wintertime or in bad weather situations. Now, obviously, weather can get a lot worse than this, but even just this, it wasn't able to do. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. However, because I'm having such a good time complaining about things, one thing that drives me nuts about the highway driving right now with full self-drive, especially on this version and the last version, was that it just stays in the fast lane. I have changed every setting, done everything I can. It does everything in its power to not leave the passing lane. And I know that like there's a car 7 miles ahead that we may need to pass. I get that, but go into the other lane and then get back over again. Maybe I'm missing a setting. I'm not the brightest, sharpest knife. I'm not the sharpest knife. Oh, I should go to bed. Maybe I'm missing a setting somewhere, but what I'm trying to say is it doesn't get out of that fast lane. And I wish so many times that it would, because the cars behind me are crowding up on me. They're wondering, why is this guy in there? Just like I do to someone else when I'm in the fast lane. And I just kind of wish it would just get over. But no such luck. The entire way on the freeway, once I got in the fast lane, I stayed there the entire time until I got to the exit. Which, let's talk about that exit. And I say that because look at this. As we're coming up here, we're racing along a couple semis here. We got less than a mile to go. We got this big dump truck and trailer ahead of us. And it does a perfect merge in to get ready for that exit. It didn't get too soon in there, which sometimes like a mile and a half it'll get over, then you just ride in that slow lane behind people like these semis. But this time it waited the perfect time. We had about a half mile left to go, I think. I can't really tell, somewhere around there. And then it merged over and then just kind of just went whatever speed it needed to go, much under the speed limit. It didn't feel like it had to rush up and pass that semi ahead of me, which it used to do sometimes. It didn't feel like it had to do that. It got me right there and was able to actually go in and take the exit. And you know, it's the city driving that really impresses me about full self-drive because, I mean, here we are, we just left this off-ramp. It right away gets over into the far right lane to make sure it's ready to make the turn at the light. And it's so important it does that because in the past, it would wait too long to get over. And if there was like 3 or 4 cars already lined up at the light, you would miss the light. You would just get confused or have to just go straight. It was not a good situation. And so here we're going, keeping far away from that curb as it makes the turn. And it does it really well. I mean, it's raining, the cameras have water spots on them, it's recognizing all the curbs and everything. It's just doing a pretty good job. And keep in mind that even though I've complained about things in this drive because there has been things that I didn't like that are just kind of weird and awkward, I have never yet had to actually disengage on this drive in order to get to this destination I'm going to, which if you're still awake with me watching this right now, good, okay? Because we're almost done, all right? Just shut up and bear with it a few more minutes, okay? And just look at these wipers. They're on auto wiper right now. I still, after, what is it now? 6 years of having my Tesla, still don't know if I like auto windshield wipers or not. Half the time I feel like I'm yelling at them. The other half of the time I feel like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think the biggest trick to these auto wipers is just try your best to ignore them and eventually you just sort of get used to them. But I'll just wrap up this drive with this really smooth turn into this destination I'm heading to. It cuts over right away from the center lane, over the JOWUA lines, and right into this office complex. So I think it did okay. There's just some things that it's like, man, it got me there. So obviously it's like, yay, you got me there. But on the other hand, it's like, if I wasn't making a video, would I be using it right now? And that's the thing that's hard to find honesty with. And the reality is no. In its current state, when I put it on, half the time I'm disengaging it because it just feels weird. Other times, like with some of the other updates, I haven't felt the way. Like, it's done really well. And maybe in future drives with this, it will. But when I'm stopping, you know, halfway through 4-way intersections, taking, 20 to 25 seconds to get through a stop sign when there's no one else there, and then stopping really far behind cars to the point where people are like gonna honk at you, that's the kind of thing that makes me disengage autopilot. And so I keep it on because I'm driving, but would I actually keep it that way? Not on this update. So hopefully the next one makes more sense and cleans up some of that stuff a little bit better. And again, what affected it? Could it have been the weather? Could it have been its, prejudice against dually trucks? I don't know, okay? But what I do know is that we've got some pretty cool product reviews coming up on the channel that you guys want to check out. So if you're new here, I almost said it. I swore I'd never say like and subscribe again, so yeah, I won't do that. See you on the next one.